Global warming is increasing at an exponential rate. Farming is one of the biggest impacts, contributing to around 13.5% of global greenhouse gas emissions. With the population growing, there will be an increasing demand in food, causing a high rate of environmental impacts. By 2050, the demand is looking to be 50% larger than at present. This causes a problem for both food production and the impact on the environment. But what can be done to stop this crisis? This is Aquaponics. Urban farming is a new idea about growing food for the city, in the city. Aquaponics is a new technique of urban farming that produces food from fish waste.
Aquaponics essentially mixes aquaculture, which is fish farming, so that's where aqua comes from, with hydroponics. Now what we're doing is we're combining aquaculture with hydroponics, aquaponics.
Hydroponics is about growing plants from water instead of soil. Aquaponics practices this system while using fish waste to supply the plants with nutrients. This in turn purifies the water for the fish, making the system a self-sufficient cycle. The Bristol Fish Project is one of the few facilities in the UK practicing this technique and have exciting developments for the new year, including plans for an eel farm.
This is now will be the biosecure area. So we've got raceways here already. These are for eel production. We've got about 20,000 litres capacity, so very small in terms of commercial, but kind of ideal for teaching about this growing technique of aquaponics and what you can do with it. This is our holding for the eels that we do have already. They're going to be the first batch that go into the farm. So we've got about 500 eels in here, and they range in size from kind of this sort of size to, there's a couple of really big ones in there as well. This is already an aquaponics system, although it's quite basic, so this is kind of a nursery for us until we get the bigger farm up and running in here.
The Bristol Fish Project are a community-based business and aim to use the facility for teaching and inspiring the public and potential businesses.
We've got the classroom, we've got the commercial kitchen, so we want to grow aquaponics across the UK and for people to come here to see and learn and be able to apply it in their own areas.
Grow Bristol is an example of a company who have set up their own business based from courses taught by Alice at the Bristol Fish Project.
So they are an example of how this site can expand into the community wider. Pete, who's one of the directors, did our introduction to aquaponics, commercial aquaponics course. So they set up using the knowledge that they learnt from our sort of sharing and experience and teaching.
So Grow Bristol byline is smart urban farming for a better city. Urban farming could be done in many ways, outdoor with the community, as a business, but we think smart is good because it combines business with innovation and also engaging with the community. It brings all these things together so that it's sustainable kind of environmentally, economically and socially for a better city. So the three main aims of Grow Bristol are food production, which is fresh, healthy and sustainably produced food into the local market. Engagement and education, which is getting specific groups like schools and young people here and go to them sometimes to talk about the food system, why we're growing food in the city. And third aim is creating opportunities. So at the moment we're on a small scale and we need to rely on volunteers and interns, but they come to us and they really enjoy what they do here and they also learn a lot. For us, we're only really growing salad leaves, green leaves and fish. So we're not saying that we're going to replace all of this large agricultural system, but we think parts of it, things like perishables like green leaves, salads, herbs and fish, are something that we really could grow in the city. So we grow indoors, which means we need lights, and also because we grow vertically, if we were outdoors, the light wouldn't get to each level. So we use these LEDs you can see here. We grow about 8 or 9 crops in this system. What you can see here on this side are pea shoots. These pea shoots are very popular with all the chefs and with the public. They take about 2 to 3 weeks to grow in this system. Then the other crops we have are a lot quicker, which we call microgreens. So here we have different kinds of radish leaf, very spicy radish. We have a micro leek there, which is a very strong oniony taste. And in other parts of the system we have crops like coriander, red cabbage, broccoli. So we have these that we either mix into mixed salads for public or chefs buy specific ones.
The Cauldron is a local restaurant which sources produce from Grow Bristol.
We can tell the difference with the product. The product grown in Grow Bristol has no additives, no herbicides, no pesticides. It's a genuinely grown from the nutrients of the waste product from the fish. You get a far clearer coriander flavour with the micro coriander, for example. The radish and the broccoli and all the other bits and pieces we get from him is a lot stronger in flavour. Dermot's really at the forefront of making urban farming on that scale ultra-local. Ultra-local is a term that's going to come out more and more soon. Anything less than a mile from site from us here. It's delivered by bicycle, it's that close. In the Cauldron here, we're incredibly proud of using the local produce, furniture, different accountants, everything's really local to us, and we shout about it, we write it on the menu, we talk about it, we tell the customers, we give them the feedback. Especially things like Grow Bristol or the 7 Project Leaves or any of the real growers and producers of the area. It's really important to celebrate them. I'd love to have a future where it's made into a beautiful cabinet or a case, and then you can have your own herbs growing in your restaurant with a fish tank below it. That's kind of the next steps of what they're doing.
Phoenix Cafe have already introduced this idea into their business and has proven successful.
So Alice from the Bristol Fish Project had a studio upstairs above the cafe. So I started talking to her and she suggested maybe us having an aquaponics system in the cafe to feed the cafe. We already use waste food, so it was a good way to kind of incorporate that. There's loads of information, I just Googled a lot of it. So there's things like, the water levels and things like that we just need to check. So you can just literally Google any information and it comes up. So it's really, really easy. For us in the cafe, we found that growing vegetables and things like that, maintaining it was too much, managing both. So that's why we decided to go for herbs, because it's a lot more sustainable. They can kind of just grow themselves and they can look after themselves. It's mainly just looking after the fish and the water levels. For me in the cafe is more inspiring is to be able to kind of show how easy it is. If I can do it, anyone can do it. And it's more of a fun hobby for me to have to add on and stops things from being boring as well. So it's more kind of just a bit of a fun project rather than kind of being a massive project.
Whilst aquaponics is in its early stages of development, we can all be more mindful on where we source our food and try and live life a little more sustainable.